Hey students, we're back. Today what we're going to learn, I've taught this class before, but every time I rewatch my videos, sometimes I think, I could have tweaked that a little bit more, could have given a little bit more information on that, or I could have explained this a little more. So this is going to be straight theory, and it's going to get deep, all right? So what I want you guys to do, pause me for now and go get pen and paper. Some of you, my students, I've given you sheets on this. You have it. So you should be able to look at it. But experience is the best teacher. So if you have family members that are willing to help you learn, you can work with them. But you always go back to this. It's what I call the truth about color for hair color. Product companies, it's business. I don't blame them. They want you to have tunnel vision just on their product, just on their color. And we don't know how they're all made. So let's talk about color real quick. Let's just talk about, what is color? There's only 3 colors. Did you know that? There are no more than 3. But let me explain something first. Before the first primary color ever happened, there was nothing. It was but a mist. Read that in one of my favorite books. So if it was but a mist is what? Water. Water reflects everything, which is kind of amazing. Water's like a mirror. You see everything through water, unless you're drowning, then you see nothing. Okay, so from that came the color white, or there was a white light. The thing about white, I'm going to explain to you how that's made. But what people tend to do, and I said this in my last video, they tend to call the color white and the color black a non-color. It is absent of color, which in true fact, it is not absent of color. It has pigment in it. If white was not a color, then why, when we put cream in our coffee, it does what? Get lighter. But if we put water in our coffee, it gets nothing. It stays the same until you put so much water in there that the water consumes it and takes it over, and it becomes water. You're dumping out the coffee. All right? So milk is white. Milk is color. If it wasn't, it would be clear like water. You pour it into your coffee. So from the color white, if you have a white t-shirt and let's go a better one. Let's go a better one. You're getting married to this really hot person. And women wear white dresses, and there have been some grooms that wear white tuxedos. It doesn't matter for their wedding. Okay, so you got married, everything went beautiful, absolutely fantastic wedding, all of that. You're wearing white. 5 years later, you think, I'm going to try on my wedding clothes because I still look good, my body's still in shape, I can wear them. So you have them in an airtight bag up in a closet. And you go up, dark closet, as a matter of fact, take them out, and what's happened with that white? It has yellowed. Yellow cannot be yellow without white. Yellow is white. It comes from white to become yellow. Or where did that come? People say, well, because it aged. Okay, well, still, it changed color. It's not that pure white anymore. It doesn't have that glisten anymore. So that's what happens with what nature is. And the thing about color, there's 3 colors. The first one is yellow. Yellow. That's the first primary color. That is the first number 1 color. Now what I've got my cameraman doing is I've got him focusing on this because I want you to see it. And if you happen to notice that I have short nails here, long nails here, my students are learning acrylics. I can't wear them all the time. I put these on myself, but I can't wear them all the time because my fingers itch, so I'm a little allergic. So just don't mind my fingers, okay? I did notice that I didn't have a peacock in the back. I checked that, so we're good right now with all this stuff. But just notice that, that's why these are longer, these are shorter, and as soon as I do this class, I'm just gonna let these kind of come off. Okay, so back to color. So yellow comes from white to be yellow. Yellow cannot be yellow without white. Yellow is white. All right? Yellow grows up to become stronger. The mistake that many color companies make is they identify the three primary colors as red, yellow, and blue, and that is incorrect. The primary colors are yellow, red. Now let me give you the personality character of yellow. I forgot to tell you that. It has a personality character. It has a personality, can you believe that? The personality character of yellow states that it will grab, but it will let go. That's why when you bleach or lighten somebody to yellow, they don't hold the color. They grab it real good, and then what? 4 shampoos later, it's faded. It has let go. How much you know about color becomes extreme on being able to keep color on the hair and yet keep the hair healthy. Another thing I want you to understand, when you take hair to yellow, you've taken it to its final point before it's white and breaking off. Yellow is the first substance in hair color. Yellow grows up to be stronger. Yellow grows up to become red. The personality character of red states that it will grab and hold on. The thing about red in itself is that you don't want to spill a red color of any kind, salsas, Kool-Aid, strawberry drink on a white carpet, because it becomes what's called stained. You are stained by the red. The thing about that is if you don't know how to change it to make it white again, it's going to be there always. So knowledge comes into this and knowing everything about color. Color grows up to become stronger. Oh, by the way, red cannot be red without yellow. Red is yellow. One is the other. One has come from the other to be what they are. There's so many messages you can get from this class outside of color. Red grows up to become stronger. Red grows up to become blue. Blue cannot be blue without red and yellow. Blue is red and yellow. The thing about blue is that it's the guard, the protector, but it's the first to leave whenever there's a problem. You go out in the sun, your hair is going to fade to what? Gold or a lighter shade of brown. You're going to start seeing those ends a little bit lighter. Depending on your pigment strength, there's also a factor about tanning. You've got to have some good pigment strength to tan and hold that tan and not burn. If you don't, those are factors about hair color. Many times when I would do color on a client, before I evaluated them, and you're going to learn this evaluation. This is going to take 2 classes to do all of this, by the way. So, this one, I'll excuse you for a while, and then we're going to come back and do the phase 2 of it. But blue is the protector. It's the guard. Blue cannot be blue without red and yellow. Blue is red and yellow. Blue will fade. If you see a blue tarp, it will fade to violet. It will fade to gray. And many times it will fade to what? White. It lets go. Guards and protects. So it just depends on the substance of that blue. Even though it's got both characters in it, its own character is the first to leave. So knowing your pigment strength is extreme. Okay, from these 3 colors, which there are no other colors, please look around. Your homework is to decipher, to look at colors and try and determine how much blue, how much red, how much yellow does it have in it. Does it have more than one or the other? What does it have in it? Surprisingly enough, you'll never think about this class again, but you'll know color. You'll just automatically know it if you practice this. So if you mix 2 primary colors in equal amounts, you will get what's called a secondary color. 1 + 1 = 2. That's basic math. I'm sure you know that. Secondary colors, that means second. That means number 2. So yellow and red create the color that we identify as color orange, but it's not a color, it's yellow and red. Red and blue create violet. yellow and blue create green. That's how it's made. These colors can increase in tone. And I want to talk about tone. I'm going to step aside a little bit here. Look at all the yellows. How many different tones do you see? This one has grown up almost into the gold area. This one has grown up almost into, it looks slightly greenish. So what if that's definitely grown up into the orange area. So tones of yellow, all of these colors right here have yellow in them. Can you look at them and say, okay, let me see, how are we going to blend this? What do we want the eye to see? The more you learn about this, after a while what happens is color becomes simple for you. You still have to learn product, and I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. Now I'm going to move over this way. How many tones of red do we see? Look at this darkest red. That's red violet. That has grown up from the red to go into the blue area, red violet. This is another red violet, but a different tone. The tone of color with hair color is what gets you in trouble, from the lightest to the darkest. Like I said, pause this, listen to it again if you have to. Take notes if you want to know color so that you can work with hair color. Still have to learn hair structure. We did the hair follicle a while back where you learned how it grew from underneath, and certain hair grows out damaged. And I see people re-damage it. So there's certain qualities in your education, your knowledge becomes extreme. Okay, blue. Look at all the tones of blue. The lighter one. If you take a dark blue and you make it lighter, what are you adding to it? Probably white. It's pigment. You can go from the darkest to the lightest, but they're all different tones. There isn't just blue. Tons of colors, tons of areas. From that, this is what I'm talking about, tones, the secondary colors become the third level colors. 1 + 2 = 3. Tertiary. So all of these colors, you end up with yellow, green. So you have to know that it's yellow and then yellow plus blue. You have to know that red, orange is red and then yellow and red, orange. You have to know that blue and green are blue and yellow and blue. So a tertiary color is 3 primary colors to include only 2 colors in the formula. Yes, you're going to learn formulas. Are you going to use these formulas later? Probably not. But because you know these formulas now and you study them, they're in your brain, and especially if you write them down. You write it down, it travels up your arm, over your shoulder, across the neck, and into the brain. You know it then. You can just spew it out as I can. All right? So, 1, 2 primaries, 1 blue. 1, 2 primaries, 1 yellow. They're all primary colors, but there's only 2 in the formulas. Yellow, orange, yellow, yellow, red. Still just yellow and red. But it's more yellow than red violet. Look at that. More yellow than red orange. It's tone. You've taken that and either made it stronger, or you've made it darker, or you've made it weaker. One or the other. Red violet, red, red, blue. Blue violet, blue, blue, red. A tertiary color is 3 primary colors, and in that formula, in that combination of colors are only 2 colors. What has been enhanced is that tone of color. What tone is it? Yellow. Look at this yellow, this yellow, this yellow. What tones do we have there to make what they are? Can you take these and totally write down the formula for what made them? Because that's what you're doing when you're mixing color on a client, on a head of hair. You're looking at that and you're thinking, okay, I want to make these changes. So what are these changes going to be? Okay, so we've talked about the primary colors, first colors. Oh, by the way, you can't buy those. You can, but they're already made. They come from the earth. They come from the ground. We went up north this weekend, and as a matter of fact, I have some rocks that I wanted to show you, but I'll bring them out later on, that we got when we went to California for a weekend. And last time we went up north, and I took a ton of pictures of rocks that I saw, dirt that I saw, trees that I saw that had these colors in them. And it was extremely fascinating to see how they come from the earth. They're not, you can't just go pick that up yourself. They're made from the earth, from the ground. All right? So the three primary colors are the earth. That's where they come from. So let's go to shades of brown. A brown blonde, for instance, soft brown, we call it. Some people call it warm because on the color wheel it's right next to red, but it's a softer brown, depending again on the tone. So shades of brown are yellow, red, and blue. Soft brown. Yellow and violet. Yellow, red, and blue. Violet is red and blue. Know how they're made. Red and green. Red and green make brown. Blue and orange. Blue and orange. Yellow and red. Blue, yellow, and red. Browns are created by three primary colors to include all three primary colors. Not a tertiary color, but all three primary colors. The tonal value that you're going to see in hair color, and start looking around, look at people, okay, that's brown. What is the tone of that color? And you're going to see that they're probably within the tertiary or secondary realm to come in with this. These are the formulas. This is what you're up against when you're learning color. Then we go to black and white. I told you that white was a color, so is black. Black is created by all three primary colors in the darkest form. For instance, the darkest blue, red, violet, and yellow, green. That's the darkest shade of yellow. Yellow, green is the darkest shade of yellow. Yellow, orange is a warmer shade of yellow, but not darker. Okay, the color white is created by all three primary colors in the lightest form, pastel shades. So we can take a very light blue and add a pink to it, and it will probably become like a slight lavender color, very light, depending on what we put in it. I want to show you some stuff in just a minute. And then once you add yellow, it goes back to white. That's how we tone hair, is with the lightest, with the lightest shades. That's where tones come from. But it's still, you're working against tertiary colors or lighter colors with the tone. You have to know, what do I need to tone? Now, companies, educators will say, well, you're going to cancel it. If you go across the color wheel, you'll cancel it. If you go across the color wheel, you will neutralize it. It will be gone. But never once do they tell you it will create. It will create shades of blonde or brown. So think about it in that sense. No more cancel, no more neutralize, create and get results. Not, okay, we're going to cancel it, let's see what happens. Get an idea where you're at so that you know where you're going. Okay, so the color gray, this has always been fascinating to me about the color gray. Unequal amounts. You have to know how to make gray. One of the things I challenge my students with always is I ask them, let's see who can make gray. And normally they end up with shades of brown as opposed to gray. There's some that can still put it together. And again, you need to know how to put it together. You need to know your product to get it there. So cameraman, how much time do I have?
10 minutes.
At 10 minutes. Okay, I've got 10 minutes to show you this. And then what we're going to do, after I show you these few items, then we're going to come back and we're going to cover the resistance chart. And I'm going to have a mannequin up here, and I'm going to evaluate the mannequin to determine the mannequin. We're going to pretend it's a person, pigment strengths. So, like I said, color. I hope you can see it. I want you to get real close, cameraman, to the middle, if you can. Because look at these colors right here. I'm going to try not to move it. So yellow and violet, do you see the middle when I combined them? That's brown. Red and green, look at the middle. Blue and orange, which one's darkest? There you go, it's got more pigment. Blue has everything above it, so it's going to be a little darker. So it's true, it becomes a fact. Let me show you another chart that I have. And this is where I want to talk to you a little bit about product. Hang on, let me see. Okay, we've already, already kind of covered that, already covered that, already covered that. So I'm not going to show you that. I want to show you something. Product. You see these watercolors? They're bright, they're dark. Amazing, aren't they? Watercolors, this is product. So you look at a swatch, a hair swatch, and the hair swatch shows a specific color. You can go to the beauty supply and they've got the little swatches right next to the colors. You go to the grocery store, you see the boxes and you see the colors. And you think, oh, I want that color. Okay, so this is product. This is what was produced by that product. Yellow and violet made brown. Red and green made brown. Look at the warmth in that. Blue and orange, look at that. If you look real close, you can see a little bit of brown in there, but that blue really consumed it, and that yellow from that orange made that ashy or green. Here's another factor. Weren't those watercolors darker than this? Okay, what happened to the product that should have been darker than this? Otherwise, that I mixed with water, because you have to put water into a watercolor, and it weakened it. Just like you have to put white developer into a color product. Depends on what you've got. It's not different. Okay, so this would be an example of a semi or demi, because you're not breaking it down to break down the hair. These are markers, just regular markers, colored markers. Yellow and violet make brown. Look at how that came out. Red and green make brown. And look at how much darker that brown is, but it took, because the pigment was there to do it. Nothing was weakened. Nothing to overtake it. So this is a fact that a primary and a secondary make brown to include all three primary colors in it. What changes is the tone of color. I want to show you one more thing. Get the yellow and the violet first. These are clays, yellow and violet. The first time I did it, do you see? I did it equal amounts. This is the misunderstanding. They tell you to mix the colors equal amounts, a primary and a secondary. The point is, if you mix it equal amounts, one is definitely going to be stronger than the other one. So if I used violet and yellow, the strength was in the violet. Now, when I used more yellow and less violet, I got this. You see that on top of that? So I made the primary stronger because here the secondary was stronger and darker than the yellow. What do I need to do?
Turn it all the way over, zoomed up.
Oh, zoom it up like this?
No, I zoom it up. You just
Okay.
turn that over to the purple side.
Okay, turn it over to the purple side, thank you. Okay, so you see that. And then when I added the yellow, it became a soft brown. All right? Yellow and violet. These are things you can practice with. What do I need to do here? And these, again, I didn't add water to them. Went right into it. Keep in mind, you add developer. The developer is white. The developer has certain strengths that are going to break color down somewhat. Just depends on what you know. All right, red and green. Red and green. Now, green has yellow in it, right? So did it weaken the blue? Yes, it did. Look at that. That was equal amounts. As soon as I put less red, more green, it became almost what we would call a real brown. Still a little bit, still slightly warm, but that's okay. It's not this color red. So you can see that. This is the one that fascinated me the most and that I had more problems with. Blue and orange, which is the stronger color. The thing about blue and orange, blue is the primary. There's yellow and red, so they're both a little bit weaker because it's a combination of two primaries. The blue has everything in it, right? And look at what happened when I used equal amounts. This is another fascinating factor. Again, you're dependent on product. It went green, didn't it? So what do you use? What do you combine? What do you put together to create color for hair color? All of those are products. What colors were combined to create these shades of brown? Can you break them down and determine how much blue, how much yellow? And we have a thing in our industry that's called levels of color, which is what we're going to learn in the second half. Darkest to lightest in product. And I have another system that I show you.
Upside down.
Oh, it's upside down? Thank you. Sorry. My cameraman helps me with this. So you can see that those are shades of brown. And there's the formulas, but the point is we know they're all yellow, red, and blue. But how much yellow, how much red, how much blue? You saw that in the clay. And then I've got shades, different shades of violet. How much time do I have?
That one's 90 degrees.
Oh.
Other way. It's upside down. Keep going.
Keep going. Right there. Okay. I couldn't do it without him, you guys. Anyway, so you can see that. Now, I've been working on this for a while, so my brain is full. But if you don't know these basics, if you can't go to the paint store and determine what is there, look at your walls. It's also the way light hits color to determine. Look at your walls. Look at where the sunlight's coming in and look at where the darker area is. What do you see? Because when it comes to hair color, it's everything about what you see. The other thing is how well do you know your product? Just like I told you, the watercolors looked dark. They looked really good. But when I put them on the paper, what did they do? They became a lot lighter. They were against white. And I added water. So all those things are a big factor. All those things are determining things for you. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to set up the mannequin. I'm going to come back and I'm going to have some different charts back here. And we're going to do a whole lot of evaluations and formulations. Take this for what you want. Take this to learn color with hair color. But remember, watch the video on hair structure. How hair grows. And we have that for before a chemical. No color before you apply color. Take care. I'll see you in a little bit. Okay, students, we're back. Now, I've taken the other things off because now we're going to get down to the down and dirty of this. Get down to what this is all about. Now, I'll be honest with you, students. Many times I've had other instructors and stuff say, well, you know, you can't teach them that. That's advanced. There is absolutely nothing advanced about knowing everything about the three primary colors. What ends up happening so often when you're taught hair color, you learn about the three primary colors and then they take you right to the product. And they mention the secondary, tertiary, but very seldom do they tell you yellow and violet make. They say no, they cancel each other out. Okay, well, that's not necessarily teaching you results. So the purpose for this is how I learned color, by the way. Now I've been doing this for 53 years, so this was in the 60s, late 60s. All right, every client that I got while I was in beauty school had to be evaluated the way I'm teaching you now. You still have to learn product. That doesn't change. But what you know about color makes more sense with product. Because once you know what product does, then you begin to know what it's going to do with the hair. You have to know hair structure. I mean, let's get real. If you've bleached it all the way up, you've taken things out. And when you try and put it back with color, you're putting it back like you would false teeth. It's not real. And another problem that I see with color is people take it from the scalp to the ends, from the scalp to the ends, from the scalp to the ends. Well, when you do that, the hair closest to the scalp, the cuticle is closed tighter. The hair away from the scalp, the cuticle is a little bit been opened up. It's been through weather, it's been through other chemicals. Remember, any single chemical service to the hair shaft is like taking a feather and ruffling it back 3 times. So if you've colored your hair and taken it out to the ends every time, whether you go lighter or darker, doesn't matter. What it does to the hair is the same thing. Any single chemical service to the hair shaft is like pulling a feather backwards 3 times. So if you've colored 3 times and you brought it out to the ends have been ruffled back 9 times. Do you wonder now why you tangle? Do you wonder now why they're dry? Now the darker colors, depending on your pigment strengths, all of that may hold, but they're still dry. You're still getting tangles. So it all goes back to what have we got here? What have we got? I mean, I've got a mannequin here. Like I said, I'm going to evaluate the mannequin. And when I evaluate the mannequin, I'm going to write down the formulas that I do. It's going to look a little bit like algebra, but it's not. It's yellow, red, and blue. It's yellow and red. It's red and violet. It's yellow and green. I mean, yellow and blue that makes green. And then you got the tertiary colors. So it's all the same thing. It never changes. But what you know about it, the result that you get, that you know about it, that's when it becomes extreme on what you're doing with it. Okay? So when you have a product, the products are labeled from 1 through 12, lightest, lightest, lightest. Okay, some of them are labeled from 1 through 10. Go to the beauty supply and just look at the numbers on there and try and decipher what those swatches are made out of. Now the swatches, as if I draw this hair real close, can you see this, cameraman? Now let me just the cameraman's going to make some adjustments for us. See how close that is? It looks darker brown. Look at how much lighter it looks when I open it up. The lighter is the reality. When it's compacted close together, that's not the reality. The reality is when you take it apart and look at it for what it is, because then you can truly see the tonal value or the tone of that color. So be aware of that when you draw it close, and that's what the swatches are like. They're all real close. So that's going to tell you that is what that color is. When in reality, many times, this is what it is, depending, again, on the product. You remember the watercolors, they were so dark, but then as soon as we put it on white paper, what happened? It was difficult to get them to build up. I had to keep adding color to it. Okay, so know that products are from the level 1, which is the darkest, to the lightest. But look at where we're at. The one thing about, I asked one time, why do they call the level 1 color blue, black, or black? Most of them are black. The reason it's called that is because they identify it as a single level of lift within that product. I don't know how much lift you can get out of blue, black to make it a single level of lift. But that tells you that it's got a lot of product in it. Now you understand this more, a level 12 means 12 levels of lift. We've lifted it up to that. I've got to mention that I am in a lot of organizations, and one of them today I was reading it. They send me emails for educational classes and stuff, and I was reading about a color, and it said how to lift 4 levels to a platinum. And what they showed as far as the picture was down here. But in the instructions, it said a level 6 or lighter. Okay, so if we have 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, we take them to a yellow gold, and then we use a blue violet, yes, they're going to go white. Why? Because blue and gold in the lightest form make white, because yellow and violet in the lightest form make white. It's the same thing. Do you see what I'm saying? Once you know what makes it, then you know how to put it together to get it. Still, you're dependent on your product to do its job, to do what it's supposed to do. If you're not sure about what your product's going to do, I always tell people, take a little bit of that tube or a little bit of that liquid, put it on a white piece of paper. Just leave it set. The tone is going to come up. That's what you're going to see more of. So it doesn't matter what color it is, but at least you're going to know the tone of that color. So the gold would be the tone into yellow. All right? So level of product. The reason they call this number 1 is because it says it's got a single level of lift. Number 2, 2 levels of lift. 3, 3 levels of lift. 4, 4 levels of lift. But what you're going to know is always that the 3 is the darkest brown before it becomes black. You will know that just by doing color enough. You will know that 6 is the teeter-totter between, now that's where you're going to find a true red pigment. Now what's the personality character of red? Grabs and holds on. So we start getting stronger here. We're the weakest here until we get to a level 9 that is a yellow gold. Why? Gold has its first area of red. Red says grabs and holds on. That's going to hold that color on. So how do we take yellow gold and make it platinum? I just told you. Do you see what I'm saying? It can be done, but you need to know your product. You need to know what it's going to do. Now, sometimes people will use a higher volume developer, never thinking about the fact the developer has no brains. They may use a 30, 40 volume developer trying to break that up to get it out of there when the 30 or 40 volume is going to do what to the product you're using? It's going to lighten it as well. So know your steps, know your product, know what it does. You don't always have to use those higher volumes. 20 volume is really high enough when you're up in this area. This is the weakest point of hair. So you've got to be aware of that. So know that from 8 to 5, that's where you've got the most red, and on the level 5 is where you've got that first area of blue. Now, have we seen level 6s and 7s that look kind of like a beige? Do they have blue in them? Yes, they do. Yeah, they do. They have to. This is just a guide to show you that that's where the red area is at. It doesn't mean that it won't be there. That's why you see the tan, beige, blondes in the area of yellow, and you know that we can't be brown without all 3 primaries. It's in the lightest form. This would be then in the mid form. So this is product. Level 1, a single level of lift. when you're working with the client, you've got to know as well what you're up against. A client, like I said, this is the weakest area. So if all of this has come off, how much do we have left? We have one level of strength. This is why this is called the resistance chart. This is the client, exactly backwards, exactly opposite of the product. The client is what you're working with. How do we know what they have? Is it real or is it artificial? So I'm going to show you how to evaluate so that you can do this, so that you know where you're at with the client and then you know what to do. Okay, so on this one, a number 1 says that's how much deposit is in there. 1. We start increasing in strength. We continue to increase. And finally, 4 levels of deposit. See, people are tunnel vision into product on these levels. So it makes it difficult for them to see it. But you have to know this to be able to evaluate a client on where you need to be. I had a client at one time, very fair-skinned, and fine hair, and she had long hair. And she wanted me to perm her hair. And in looking at it and just looking at her, I had to say, you know what, I don't think it's a good idea because I don't think your hair can take it. Once I did a complete evaluation on her, we found out that, wow, she's got a lot more pigment strength than what I thought she had. And we gave her her perms. The thing about that, with her hair being fine, she was very good about following the standard. She knew she couldn't use commercial product on her hair. She had to use professional product to keep it up, but her hair did not break off. It stayed on there and kept growing. And we would put perm on top of perm. You'd take precautions, but still, she was able to get it once I evaluated her. Otherwise, my idea in looking at her hair and looking at her and thinking, honey, it's not a good idea for you to get a perm. So, but once we evaluated, it was amazing. It was amazing that, yeah, she could. Her hair could handle it because of her pigment strength. So these are the strengths. So right here in the area, so we know that red-brown has 8 areas of strength. Here it has 5 levels of lift. Know your strengths because that's what you're working on. That's your resistance chart. What have you got? And does it take time to learn this? Yes, it does. It's going to take practice on your as far as what you need to do. People, like I said, are tunnel vision to this. If you talk to somebody that doesn't or has never seen this, they're going to say, what are you talking about? So the resistance area, what is in it? 9 levels of resistance, 10 levels of resistance, all the way down to 12, which is blue-black. That's what's in. And here, they talk about lift, but never tell you what's in there. What am I working with? What have I got? You saw the clay that I had, and you saw the primary colors when I combined them together. I had to break it apart. I had to work a little bit at a time to make it work. All right, so those are all factors about color. And there's a lot of excellent product out there that you can use, but get to know your product. Try it. My recommendation is always do a strand test. When you cut somebody's hair with long hair, please do a color lab for yourself. So many people don't. They sweep it up and throw it away. And it drives me crazy when I teach at the schools. I got to the point where the students, it was funny, they would come over and say, Miss Foy, somebody just got a lot cut off. Do you want the hair? And I'm thinking, do I even need to ask? Of course I do. I love to color lab to see, wow, look at how well that worked. So does it take an effort to become a colorist? Yes, it does. But then again, I stress it enough, know the product you're working with. And I'll be honest with you, the lighter colors are going to be the hardest. Those are the ones, because of yellow, what does it do? Grabs and lets go. So knowing that personality character, What are you going to do? You want it to grab and what? Stay. So you shouldn't lift higher than a yellow gold. Possibly do 2 services with a lower volume developer to tone it up. So all of that becomes your knowledge on what you need to do. I was watching another video. Another lady had really, really curly hair. And they lightened her to, it was pretty much yellow gold, almost gold. But I could see that that hair, because of the curliness in it, and they took it pretty light to a beige blonde, but the point is they fried it to get it there. That hair already grows out damaged. What other factors could they have done not to do that to her hair? So there's an area of professionalism with this. So let's cover this. This is our client. And the first thing we have to determine about our client is the hair color. Okay, so we know it's brown, right? The hair is brown. Now I'm going to write the formulas and I'll cover them for you again in just a minute. And what we see is, do we see like a gold brown in there? So you go color, tone, and highlight. All right, so we see a gold brown. So if I were to take her and I were to paint a portrait of her hair, and I would have to draw all those little fine lines. Look at your family. If you had to draw all the little fine lines, what color would that be? That's the highlight. Now if they have like a foil weave where it's blonde, that would be the highlight. We're pretending this is just natural color. It isn't, it's been colored, but let's pretend. So I want to say, this is a real fine line. I want to call it gold, but then yet I want to call it yellow gold. So I believe I'm going to call it yellow gold. Okay, the next thing I'm going to look at is her skin color. Now normally ladies are going to wear makeup. And you look at the skin color, the best thing to do is look at their arms if they have makeup on. Because the makeup is going to shield anything that you might want to see. All right? So we're looking at her, and there's a variety. This is the hardest one to determine what color do we see. So on her, I see a cream. She's definitely a cream. She's very light. And I'm trying to decipher if she is a cream rose or a cream tan. Now, those are different formulas. If she's a cream rose, I would put cream rose, and the formula for rose would be red and white. And you'll understand that in a minute. But I believe, looking at her neck right here, I'm going to call her, ooh, she's pretty fair-skinned. I'm going to have to call her a cream rose. Now that's the color. Okay, what about the tone? Definitely cream. And I would say she's a very light tan. Okay, so I've written that down. Hair, skin. The last thing is that hidden pigment, that surprise. With people with blondes, fair-haired blondes that have hair down to their hips will have brown eyes. The ones with blue, light blue, are going to have short hair. Unless their pigment strength is really strong and they've got a little bit coarser hair, but it ain't going to grow. That's just the nature of pigment strength. That's what all of this is pigment. So I'm looking at her eyes. Her eyes are definitely a blue. And I would say they're a blue, I'm going to call them a blue-gray. That's color. Tone is, I want to call her cream in tone. And then around, if you look at a person's eyes, look around the iris, the pupil of the eye. all right? There's color around that circle there, all around here. So when you look at that, now with her, it looks like it actually looks like it's a blue-gray. So I hope you've written this down, because now I'm going to take these down and I'm going to take this formula. Actually, the only one I'm going to take down is the product, because now we're working on the client and her resistance. What is she? What can we do? Can we bleach her? Can we perm her? Can we take her darker? Should we just do a foil weave? Can we go red and she'll hold it? We don't know right now. We just know that we've evaluated her. So I'm going to bring the formulas over here, and I'm bending backwards for you to see it. So her hair was brown, gold brown highlights, yellow gold. On the skin, by the way, I do want to say something. If they have freckles, that's primary red. As soon as you write down the word freckles, and if they have them, that's good pigment strength. If they have a lot of moles, where you see, like, you know, certain moles on their skin, it can be on their arms, that's pigment strength, that's hidden strength, so you can call that. But I mean, you know, if they just have one, I've got one, but I mean, I've got good pigment strength more because of my skin color and my eye color. But I wouldn't necessarily call that a freckle. Okay, I don't have any more than that. So also another factor is if they have a hairy, you know, hairy arms. What color is that hair on the arms? There's your highlight. All right, is it brown? Is it blonde? Is it gold? That's a reality. Okay, so those are factors that you would write down on the skin. So let's look at the hair. I'm going to move this over. I hope it doesn't fall over. Okay, the hair is brown. How do we make brown? I'm just going to go with red and green. We call that universal brown because that's in the middle. And what is the brown? All three primaries. So we're just going to go with that. Gold brown. Okay, now gold, brown, red and green again. And then yellow, and then gold. So look at that formula. Brown, gold brown, yellow gold. Now you learn how to read it. You may never use this. I only use this when it's necessary. But like I said, every single client when I was in beauty school, whether they were coming in just for a haircut, everyone was evaluated. And that's why I know what I know about color to this day. You still have to understand hair structure. Now let's not get crazy about this. All right, so those are just factors. For instance, there's a color on the market, you know, that's bright red. It's a plastic color. Well, I'll tell you what, that plastic color, the only way you're going to get rid of that is to put hot water on the hair. And that's, you don't want to burn the scalp because it's plastic. So yeah, is it going to stay? Yeah, but you can't color over it. It will not accept it. So know your product. Know what you're putting on the client's hair. Make the client aware of that. Okay, so now that's the hair. Put an H right here. Skin, an S right there. The skin is cream. And we're going to go blue, red, and yellow. And I'm going to put little ones on there. The reason I call it blue, red, and yellow is just to give it its own formula. On white, we put blue, red, and yellow with the little ones. On black, we put blue, red, and yellow with no ones. So we know it's in the darkest form. Why? The ones, the lightest yellow. That's the number one. That's what that reflects. It's white. It's as close to being there as it's going to be. Cream is white. Rose. Yeah, I'm moving over here for you guys. Red and blue, red, yellow again with the little ones. These are the formulas. Cream again. Blue, red, yellow with the little ones. And then tan. Red, yellow plus blue. And we're going to put the little ones. The reason for that, 10 is the lightest shade of brown. So that tells you it's in the lightest shade. Okay, these are all going to be variables in just a few minutes. Okay, so now the eyes. Put an E right there. So we have blue, gray. And the formula for gray is B-R-Y in lowercase letters. Still made from the three primary colors. Brown, black, and gray, and white are all made from the three primary colors. Just gray is the hardest one. So blue, gray, cream, blue, red, yellow, with the little ones, because that's cream. And then we have blue, gray again. So I hope you can read it sideways the way I've got it. So now what we want to find out on pigment strength is how much blue does this client have, how much red does she have, and how much yellow. This is her. This is what you're up against. How much can we do to keep her hair on her head, to keep it healthy, and get the results that she wants? That's who you're working on. We can't just go and let anybody come in and do stuff to them and never really know what's going on if you don't know what they are made out of. So you need to know. The hardest part, for instance, like for instance, brown eyes. Some of them, they'll say, well, they're brown. Okay, what color brown? Well, they're light. Okay, what does the word light mean? Does that mean yellow brown or yellow gold brown? See, it's all got to have a word to it. I have 2 minutes? Okay, in 2 minutes, I'm going to show you what her value is. So how many blues? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So her strengths are right here. She's good with the blues. Right there. She's got a good value in the blue area. Did I get all the blues? Okay, how many reds? Oh, here's another one, 10. So it's come down even more. She's into the blue-brown area, down to the level 10. Okay, reds, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and I just found another blue. So that's 11, 12. So she is 12 red, so her red is down here. If I were to pull her red out of her body, it would be red violet. It wouldn't just be red. So her red says, grabs and holds on, guards and protects. So she's resistant, definitely. Okay, now what about the eyes, the yellows? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 again. So her yellow is here. She's got a lot of resistance. We can do just about anything to it. It doesn't mean that we can lighten her and it won't break, because it will. But the point is, we can do a lot to this hair because we've discovered her strengths. So if I were to count this, you count them all the way across. So let's just say that it's 36, because 3 times 12 is 36. Divided by 3, 1, 2, 3, is what? What's 36 divided by 3? 9?
12.
Yeah. Oh, is that 12? Okay, 30, that's right, sorry. So 36 divided by 3, it says that she has full value resistance. The point is, if she's got this much resistance, she's going to be real hard to lift. All right? Practice this. If you have any questions, ask. I will cover it once more. Not today, though. Take care.